Welcome to the Startup Leader Show, where we learn lessons from startup founders and executives. I am your host, Lisa Dreher, and I'm really excited to introduce our guest for today, Charlie Daniels. He is the VP of Business Development at CopaSAT. Welcome to the show, Charlie.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's so great to have you here. Thanks for making time. Maybe we can start by having you give us a little bit of background on yourself and CopaSAT.
Sure. So I was in the military for 20 years, mostly doing tactical or deployable satellite communications and special operations. I retired out of that, worked for the UN on a mission over in Africa for a year. I was in charge of all the communications over there. I came back and I started working for the government, the Navy component out of Charleston, but I was based at Fort Bragg. There I was the SME for deployable satellite communication, supporting all the special forces there. And I transferred down to Tampa and supported SOCOM directly. Then I decided to try my luck in industry. I ran a division for DRS Technologies. And then L3 GCS called me up and wanted me to be the president of one of their divisions up in New York. And so I went up there and I was president there. We made VSAT terminals for all of the military. And then L3 Harris merged. And then I decided it was time for me to come back to Florida and semi-retire. And then the owner and founder of CopaSAT, Obie Johnson, called me up and wanted me to come and help him grow the company. And so I said, sure, he's one of my neighbors. And so it was really convenient for me. And so we started working together. And CopaSAT was originally founded in 2014, and it did satellite services, satellite terminals, products based, and all that. And then it slowly transitioned. It was a reseller for a major OEM VSATs. And then it was time to branch out, and they started solely focusing on satellite terminals and integrating them for the military.
Wow, amazing. So fantastic background. Yeah. It doesn't sound like you've done a very good job of semi-retiring, but it sounds like CopaSAT is very lucky to have you on board. So recently, CopaSAT announced a new product called the Storm V3, and I'd love to learn more about that.
Sure, I can tell you all about the Storm V3, but I'd like to start with the Storm V1 and then the Storm V2 and how we progressed to the Storm V3. So I believe it was about 5 or 6 years ago, Kymeta came out with a U7 antenna, which is a very good antenna. And we took a look at that and we said, hey, this is a great product, but let's ruggedize it for the military. And so we took the Kymeta U7 antenna, ruggedized it, put our own power in there, put a cradle point Wi-Fi LTE router inside of it, and packaged it well for military use. And that became the Storm V1 for us. And it was well received within the military. And then Kymeta came out with the U8 antenna, which was slightly different than the U7. It was a little bit better product than that. We did exactly the same thing to it. We ruggedized it, power, cradle point, and it was a good seller. And so then we're thinking of, okay, we need to do something else as well, or else we'll just stagnate. And then SpaceX came out with the Starlink antenna, and it's a very good product just by itself. And so we started looking at that, and we thought we can do exactly the same thing to the Starlink antenna. Take the Starlink antenna, we have multiple power inputs for it. We've got the cradle point in there. And then they came out with the Starshield antenna as well, which is strictly for the government and the military forces. And so there's really, as far as we were concerned, no difference in the two terminals. The specs were the same, the dimensions and all that. And so that became the Storm V3 with either a Starlink or a Starshield inside.
Wow, that is amazing. Okay, so tell me, why is it so important to actually ruggedize these solutions? And as I understand it, the previous V1 and V2 solutions were mill standard qualified and tested. So tell me a little bit more about why is it so important to ruggedize these solutions?
Okay, so in some cases, it really isn't. It depends on the users and how they are implementing them out in the field. I've talked to some of the Coast Guard people, and they have their Starlink or their Starshield on their ships, and it's in a protected environment. So there really is no reason to ruggedize it. But other use cases, like on vehicles and on maritime boats, and if they're just deploying it out in the field, sometimes. So the Starlink and the Starshield, they run off of AC power only. And sometimes, you just don't have a power outlet when you're out in the field or you're in a vehicle. And so that's why we designed it with multiple power inputs to where the Storm V3, it can run off of AC, or it can run off of DC, or it can run off of the military 2590 batteries as well. So it's pretty versatile, and it's ruggedized. And you mentioned, the mill standard, like the environmental certification. The Storm V1 went through that certification testing and passed it. And the Storm V3 right now is currently in testing, and there's one test left. It's passed all the other ones. And so we see no reason why it shouldn't pass.
Wow, very exciting. Okay, so why did CopaSAT feel that it was really important to have a Starlink, Starshield solution?
Well, we're a product-based company, and so we were, after the Storm V1 and V2, we were looking for something else to enter the market with, and the Starlink just happened to pop up at that time. And as I said, they're both great products, by themselves, but we just, because of my background in the military, I always think of the troops out there and what can we do to make their life easier, faster, quicker, and that kind of stuff. And ruggedizing this, I mean, literally, you just take it out of the transit case. You can throw it on the ground if you want, connect power to it, hit the button, and within 3 minutes, you've got satellite connectivity. You absolutely have to do nothing.
Wow.
So I tell people that it's Charlie proof, so even I can operate it. So.
Okay, so has the solution already been implemented? So Storm V3, has it been implemented anywhere?
Yes, there are several organizations that already have them, and they are ordering more of them. There's a special ops unit that had ordered 10. We delivered them, I believe, in April. They just put in another order for 20. And then a combatant command has ordered, they're in the process of ordering 31 of these initially, and then it's just growing. The Army is purchasing these as well. And we've even reached as far as the Canadian Special Forces as well.
Wow, that is amazing. Mm-hmm. What types of vehicles and vessels are these being installed upon?
So a variety of vehicles. Some of them are on commercial vehicles. Some of them are on the military vehicles. And then the Navy is implementing them on some of their smaller boats. And the Army, they're actually using that in a stationary configuration where they're deploying with it instead of a VSAT terminal, and it's just sitting on a tripod out in the field.
Huh, interesting. What makes this solution from CopaSAT different than just the standard units? I know we talked about some of the things already. Are there other features or benefits that are built into this ruggedized solution from CopaSAT?
Yes, we would like to think so, that it's different and distinct. But as I said, the Starlink and Starshield, they are very good products on their own. I mean, they can stand on their own. But we have multiple power inputs, which they do not. So depending on your mission or where you are in the world, you may not have access to AC. And then we've ruggedized it to where, in that mill standard 810 testing, they put it on a shock and vibe table. They drop it to make sure it'll work. We've actually submerged our terminal in the pool with 4 feet of water for 18 hours, took it out, connected it, powered it on, and it worked just fine. So those little things that we have done, to make it to make it past the environmental certification testing, so it can be used in any environment in the world.
Wow, that's amazing. And is there also the capability to connect to cellular, is that's not a standard feature of a Starlink antenna, right?
That is correct, and I'm glad you mentioned that because I forgot to. So we have a Cradlepoint Wi-Fi LTE router in there. So if for some reason you lose satellite connectivity, like if you're driving in an urban area and they have the big tall buildings, you lose the satellite connectivity, it automatically switches over to the cellular network after 30 seconds of loss. And then when you regain the satellite connectivity, it automatically switches back over.
Wow. Okay. So how much size and weight does it add by ruggedizing the unit?
So I believe that the Starlink or the Starshield, they weigh, I think, 12 to 15 pounds, and ours is right under 30 pounds.
Okay.
So I don't think, in my opinion, that's not that big of a jump in weight.
Right. Right. No, that's amazing. Okay. So obviously you have this amazing background that you're bringing to CopaSAT and this new Storm V3 solution. I would love to have you talk just a little bit about some of the most valuable business lessons that you've learned over the years that have kind of helped you with this launch of the new product.
Oh, that could either be a long list or a short one. So I would say that, my philosophy is, think outside of the box, especially as a small business, because you have to do something to distinguish yourself from other companies out there. So think outside the box, listen to your customer, listen to what their needs and requirements are. And in a small business, you have to wear many hats.
Yeah, absolutely.
And be flexible as well.
Yeah. Are there things that you've done to kind of uncover those ideas for thinking outside the box? Where do those ideas come from?
So I firmly believe in listening to my customer and them telling me, hey, Charlie, I have this problem or this shortfall. Can you help me with it? And I have always helped people my whole life, whether it benefited me or not. And I would tell, when I was at L3 or at DRS, my BD team, just go in there and try to help the customer. Don't try to sell them anything, and so I still do that to this day. And some of my customers will come to me, hey, Charlie, can you help me with this? And I'll tell them, no, I cannot. But here is the company that can. And I develop that level of trust with my customer. And sooner or later, I know he's going to come to me, hey, Charlie, can you do this? And I'm like, now, yes, that we can do. And so listening to the customer.
Excellent. Excellent. So I think a lot of times, and I'm sure this has happened in some of the development of these products, you end up running into these roadblocks along the way. What have you found are the most effective ways of just working through those roadblocks?
Being flexible. That's really what it comes down to. There's no sense in pounding your head against the wall. Take a step back, think outside the box, make sure you see everything and just be flexible.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I want to close out with one question that I would love to hear from you, because you have such a, broad background. And that is, if you were to make one prediction about the future, what would it be?
What would it be? I'm not really good at predictions, but I think, everything, it's ever changing. Life is, the industry is, the world is, and there again, you have to be flexible. So it's just an ever changing environment that we live in.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So if somebody wanted to learn more about CopaSAT and or the Storm V3, what should they do?
Just go to our website, CopaSAT.com, and there should be lots of information from there. There's points of contact if they wanted to reach out and get more detailed information from us. LinkedIn, we have our page there. They can get information from there as well. And there's, I think, lots of pictures and information about the terminal.
Absolutely. Well, great. I really want to thank you so much for making time to be here today. It was really wonderful learning more about the Storm V3 and CopaSAT.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, my pleasure. And I do want to take a moment to thank GuideForce for hosting these sessions. To learn more about GuideForce, you can visit guideforce.com. And we'll see you next time on the Startup Leader Show.